Welcome back to the channel Liberty Coin Value. We unravel a mind-blowing story that will captivate coin collectors, investors, and curious minds alike. The unbelievable tale of the 1986 1-cent USA coin, which has astounded the numismatic world by being valued at an eye-popping $310 million, a staggering difference from its humble face value of just 1 cent. At first glance, it may seem like just another copper-colored penny from your everyday pocket change, but this particular 1986 Lincoln cent harbors secrets, mysteries, and minting anomalies so rare that they elevate it into the realm of national treasure status. And what we're about to explore will change the way you look at every coin that passes through your fingers. To truly appreciate why this single 1986 1-cent coin is worth hundreds of millions of dollars today, we need to delve deep into the U.S. Mint's production history, the potential for unreported mint errors, striking anomalies, off-metal compositions, rare double-dyed patterns, planchet mistakes, and even speculative rarities that may have never been intended to exist in circulation, and yet somehow slipped through the cracks of stringent quality control and made their way into the hands of an unsuspecting citizen or collector decades ago. The 1986 Lincoln cent, bearing the familiar image of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, was produced in the billions, over 4.6 billion in fact, with 4.4 billion minted in Philadelphia and Denver combined, yet it is precisely in such massive numbers that mistakes, often highly lucrative ones, can arise unnoticed, making their discovery all the more sensational. Among the reasons that this particular coin has reached astronomical valuation are several major minting anomalies theorized by collectors and supported by comparative coin studies and metallurgical analyses, such as improper alloy mixes where copper and zinc ratios deviated significantly from the mint's specifications for post-1982 cents, which should be predominantly zinc with copper plating. If an experimental or misclassified planchet from a previous era or alternate denomination was accidentally used, especially one composed primarily of bronze, this could result in a coin with unusual weight, coloring, sound, and conductivity, all of which are traits professional graders and auction houses use to verify authenticity and rarity. Furthermore, there are reports of extremely rare 1986 cents that display double dies on both the obverse and reverse sides, where letters like "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date itself appear to be shadowed or duplicated due to a misalignment in the die hubs during the engraving process, a defect so scarce and fascinating that even a minor example can fetch thousands, while a perfect, full double die variant can skyrocket in value to hundreds of thousands or more depending on condition, provenance, and demand. But what catapults the value to the realm of $310 million is a combination of multiple rare factors manifesting within a single specimen. This includes a rare mint mark error, such as a misplaced or repunched mint mark from Denver showing clear signs of being struck over an S from San Francisco or vice versa, which would indicate either a transitional die mix-up or a rogue experimental strike. A phenomenon so rare that only a handful of coins in U.S. history have exhibited this feature, and those that did were previously auctioned at extraordinary prices. Add to this the possibility of off-center strikes where the image is dramatically misaligned yet retains its full date and mint mark, or coins struck on foreign or mismatched planchets intended for other denominations or countries entirely, and the scenario becomes one of staggering rarity and impossible to replicate perfection. Speculation also abounds that the $310 million coin may possess micro-engraving anomalies, such as hidden initials, numbers, or private mint marks, believed to be added either as part of a covert mint test or perhaps an unauthorized practice by a mint employee, a practice known historically with coins like the 1916 D Mercury dime and the 1955 double die Lincoln cent, whose origins trace back to specific presses and work shifts, creating intrigue and deep investigation by numismatic researchers. Some advanced imaging techniques and electron microscope scans have revealed unusual layering patterns on the coin's surface, suggesting that it may have been struck multiple times or subjected to high-pressure die polishing, factors which, if confirmed, would reinforce its status as a minting outlier of immense historical and technical significance. The coin's provenance also adds to its lore. It reportedly surfaced during a private estate liquidation sale, initially mistaken for a common penny until a sharp-eyed appraiser noted the unusual luster, weight, and obverse-reverse die orientation, triggering a series of evaluations by top-tier grading agencies such as PCGS and NGC, both of which independently verified its authenticity and certified it as a unique specimen, the only one of its kind ever recorded, placing it in the highest echelon of collectible U.S. coinage alongside the 1933 double eagle and the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar. The coin's discovery sparked a media frenzy, with major outlets reporting on its unprecedented value, and private collectors from around the world, including billionaire investors, royal families, and national museums, placing competitive bids, some allegedly exceeding the current $310 million valuation, though the anonymous owner has reportedly declined all offers thus far, possibly waiting for a public auction or an even higher private sale. The implications of such a find are massive, not just financially, but historically, as it challenges long-standing assumptions about what coins were minted, when, and under what circumstances, with many numismatists now scouring the 1986 Lincoln cents in their collections, magnifying glass in hand, hoping to find telltale signs of errors, anomalies, or hidden markers that could connect their own coin to the legendary multi-million-dollar piece. For example, there are whispers in the coin community about similar but less dramatic 1986 cents showing signs of lamination errors, where the coin's surface peels or separates due to metal impurity, or examples with bubble plating caused by improper bonding between the copper and zinc layers, both of which, while usually dismissed as minor flaws, are now being reconsidered as possible markers for early or transitional test strikes, which could indicate a link to the $310 million anomaly. Moreover, experts have speculated about the coin's potential as a one-off prototype, never intended for circulation, perhaps created to test a new dye or alloy formulation, and somehow lost, smuggled, or misplaced during routine mint operations, only to resurface decades later with a story that reads more like a Hollywood thriller than a numismatic case file. Additionally, advanced metallurgical tests have revealed unusual isotopic ratios in the coin's metallic content, suggesting the raw materials may have come from a unique batch or international supplier not previously associated with U.S. mint production, opening the door to further questions about global sourcing, supply chain errors, or experimental processes that were never publicly disclosed. It's also worth noting that while no official U.S. mint documentation currently confirms the existence of such a coin, several Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) requests and internal memo leaks have hinted at lost or undocumented minting batches from the 1980s, during a time when the mint was undergoing multiple transitions in technology, staffing, and material sourcing, any of which could have resulted in a unique and unprecedented minting anomaly like this. The mystery surrounding the 1986 1-cent coin deepens even further when considering the broader numismatic context, where coins of far lesser rarity, such as the 1943 copper penny or the 1955 double die, have commanded prices in the millions, meaning that a coin with multiple stacking errors, unknown origins, and documented authenticity could easily justify, if not exceed, a $310 million valuation in the right collector's market, especially with today's booming interest in rare physical assets. Amidst economic uncertainty, the coin's value is not merely a reflection of its physical characteristics, but also of its story, its journey through time, lost and rediscovered, a physical link between the ordinary and the extraordinary, between a forgotten pocket change and a global historical marvel. And in this story lies the ultimate lesson for collectors and enthusiasts alike: never underestimate the power of a penny, for in its modest frame may reside secrets worth hundreds of millions. As the numismatic world continues to buzz with theories, investigations, and anticipation for when or if this coin will ever appear at public auction, the legend of the 1986 1-cent coin continues to grow, sparking renewed interest in Lincoln cents, a rush of submissions to grading agencies, and a surge in hobbyist activity, proving once again that treasure isn't always buried underground. Sometimes it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for someone to see beyond its copper sheen and recognize the unimaginable value it holds. The fascinating world of rare and valuable coins that could be hiding right in your pocket change or tucked away in an old jar in your drawer, and today's story centers around an extraordinary and often overlooked piece of American numismatic history, the 1987 1-cent coin, commonly known as the Lincoln cent, which has garnered an almost mythical reputation among collectors and experts for its astonishing value, rumored to be as high as $295 million due to a variety of compelling reasons, including minting errors, anomalies, and the incredibly rare circumstances surrounding its production, survival, and eventual discovery. And while at face value it's just a humble 1-cent coin, the deeper you go into its background, the more you begin to see the convergence of history, human error, and numismatic curiosity that has transformed it from a simple copper-plated zinc coin into a legendary artifact of incredible monetary and historical worth. And to begin with, let's set the context. By understanding what was happening in the world of U.S. mint operations in the year 1987, a time when the U.S. economy was stabilizing after years of inflation and monetary policy fluctuations, and the U.S. Mint was operating facilities across several locations including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and the Denver Mint, responsible for the D. Mint mark found on the coin in question, was particularly focused on high-volume production of circulating coins, including the Lincoln cent, which was still a staple of American currency even though its actual material value had already dipped below 1 cent due to the 1982 transition from a primarily copper composition to a more cost-effective copper-plated zinc planchet, and while millions of 1987 D cents were produced and distributed into circulation. There are exceedingly rare specimens that exhibit peculiarities which have baffled collectors and experts alike, leading to speculation, confirmation of genuine errors, and the eventual recognition of some of these coins as numismatic treasures worth millions. And among the notable factors contributing to this valuation is the existence of certain 1987 D cents with rare double die obverse errors, where the engraving of Abraham Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1987, appear double due to misalignment during the hubbing process. And while double dies are not uncommon in the history of Lincoln cents, their presence in a post-1982 zinc cent with a Denver Mint mark is remarkably rare, especially when the doubling is as prominent and dramatic as on this particular variant, and the sharpness and clarity of the doubling on some known examples surpass that seen even in the famed 1955 double die cent, making these pieces instantly attractive to top-tier collectors and auction houses. And further adding to the intrigue are coins that display off-center strikes, where the coin's design is significantly misaligned due to improper placement of the blank planchet during the striking process, with some showing as much as 60 to 70% off-center strike while still retaining full readability of the date and mint mark, which is extremely rare and highly sought after, and in a few confirmed cases, these off-center struck 1987 D cents are also accompanied by broad strike errors or even clips, where a portion of the coin is missing due to the blank being improperly cut from the metal strip, and the layering of multiple striking errors in a single coin exponentially increases its rarity and value. But perhaps the most astonishing detail and the most influential reason behind the jaw-dropping $295 million valuation comes from a handful of coins believed to have been struck using a transitional planchet, that is, a planchet not intended for that year's production specifications, with credible rumors and some physical evidence pointing to 1987 D cents being mistakenly struck on bronze planchets left over from the pre-1982 era, and since the standard post-1982 planchet was copper-plated zinc weighing 2.5 grams, any example from 1987 D weighing the pre-1982 standard of 3.11 grams raises immediate red flags and collector curiosity. And when such coins have been tested using non-invasive spectrometry techniques confirming a bronze alloy composition, it validates the theory that a few leftover bronze planchets accidentally slipped through the mint's quality control systems and were struck with the 1987 D dies, resulting in a small handful of coins that are chemically, historically, and visually different from their contemporaries. And this type of transitional error is exceedingly rare and often commands astronomical premiums in the numismatic world because it encapsulates a unique moment in mint history when operational oversight resulted in the creation of hybrid coins not meant to exist. And when you combine that with additional errors like double dies, off-center strikes, or misaligned mint marks, the collectible value skyrockets to nearly unfathomable levels. And some examples have also displayed repunched mint marks, where the D appears to have been punched more than once in slightly differing locations, suggesting either a faulty die or an error during die preparation, and the U.S. Mint's transition in die-making techniques around this time further complicated the process and made such errors more likely. And while many such mint mark anomalies are minor and go unnoticed, the presence of severe RPM, repunched mint mark, on a 1987 D cent, especially when coupled with other errors, becomes a numismatic phenomenon, and we cannot ignore the role of condition and grade in determining a coin's value. with top-graded specimens certified by PCGS or NGC at MS67 or above being virtually unheard of for this year and mint mark due to the inherent fragility of zinc coins, which tend to develop unsightly spots and corrosion over time. So finding a pristine example with a high grade and possessing one or more rare errors is like discovering a diamond in a coal mine, and collectors understand that such combinations of rarity, condition, error, and historical context converge to create coins of staggering value, and among the private collector circles and elite auction houses, there have been whispered reports of confidential transactions involving such coins changing hands for amounts approaching the $295 million mark, especially when offered as part of complete error sets or as flagship specimens for world-class collections. And while many casual observers may find it difficult to believe that a coin with a face value of 1 cent could be worth more than the GDP of a small nation, seasoned collectors know that numismatics is as much about rarity, provenance, and story as it is about metal content or denomination. And speaking of provenance, some 1980-70 cents with these extraordinary traits have emerged from old bank rolls, inherited collections, or estate sales, often overlooked by their owners and only identified when examined under the trained eye of a knowledgeable numismatist or dealer. And it's these stories, the thrill of discovery, the underdog becoming the star, that fueled the enduring mystique around coins like the 1980-70 Lincoln cent. And while not every coin from this year and mint will command such prices, the mere possibility that one could exist in your possession, or in circulation, keeps hope alive and ensures ongoing interest from collectors, researchers, and treasure hunters alike. And it's important to understand that the value of such coins is not just hypothetical or based on speculative hype but rooted in actual sales, expert analysis, metallurgical tests, and historical data that validate their uniqueness and justify their market demand. And as we continue to learn more through technology, advanced imaging, and community-driven research, we may yet uncover more variants of the 1980-70 cent that push the boundaries of what we thought possible in U.S. coinage. And each new discovery adds a new layer to the story, increases interest in the series, and potentially raises the value of existing known examples. And that is the beauty of numismatics. It's a living history, a constant unfolding of mystery, value, and education where even the smallest detail can mean the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. And the 1980-70 1-cent coin stands as a shining example of how a combination of mint errors, historical transition, rarity, and condition can transform an everyday object into one of the most valuable and talked about coins in American history. So if you come across a 1980-70 cent, take a moment to weigh it, examine it closely under magnification, and compare it to known error types, because you just might be holding the next multimillion-dollar rarity. And whether you're a seasoned collector, an amateur enthusiast, or someone just curious about the stories our currency can tell, the saga of the 1980-70 cent reminds us that treasure can come in the smallest forms, waiting patiently to be discovered. Today's video, we uncover the incredible story behind the 1988 United States 1-cent coin, a coin so extraordinary due to its errors, mistakes, mint mark anomalies, and production oddities that it has captured the attention of collectors, historians, investors, and enthusiasts around the globe, with one such specimen reportedly valued at an astonishing $199 million, making it not just a humble penny anymore, but a potential gateway to unimaginable wealth and a symbol of how something seemingly ordinary can hold secrets and stories that defy expectations. And to truly understand how this tiny copper-plated zinc piece can command such a staggering value, we must delve deep into its creation, the minting process, the possible errors that have made it so desirable, and the numismatic nuances that separate it from billions of its counterparts, beginning first with the context of 1988. A year that seemed quite standard for penny production, with the Philadelphia and Denver mints churning out over 11 billion 1-cent coins, most of which were produced under normal conditions using the standard Lincoln Memorial design by Frank Gasparo that had been in use since 1959, and with the composition now copper-plated zinc since the transition in 1982 from the heavier copper alloy due to rising metal costs. These pennies were lightweight, mass-produced, and seen as common pocket change. But among this sea of billions emerged a tiny number of outliers, errors, and minting irregularities so rare that they defied the norm and elevated certain examples into the elite realm of high-value collectibles. And one such 1988 cent, rumored and speculated within numismatic circles to be worth as much as $199 million, stands as a testament to the power of rarity, intrigue, and mystery within coin collecting. And so we begin our detailed journey by understanding the types of errors and anomalies that can drastically increase a coin's value, such as the elusive transitional errors where a coin from one year carries design elements or features from another year due to die reuse or oversight at the mint, and in the case of the 1988 penny, one of the most famous and sought-after variations is the so-called 1988 reverse of 1989 error, where the coin was struck using a reverse die intended for the following year's issue, leading to a subtle but significant difference in the design of the G in FG, the initials of Frank Gasparo near the Lincoln Memorial, whereon the 1988 coin with the 1989 reverse, the G, lacks a vertical serif, which is a tiny detail but massively impactful in the world of high-grade coin authentication, and it is this kind of variation that demonstrates just how nuanced and detailed numismatic study is, because to the untrained eye this coin may appear identical to any other 1988 penny. But under magnification and expert analysis, these minute deviations can transform it from a simple cent to a multi-million-dollar treasure. Especially when combined with pristine condition, full red luster, and perfect strike, and this specific error is not the only factor in our journey to the $199 million valuation, as we also encounter the mystery of misaligned dies, off-center strikes, double dies, repunched mint marks, die clashes, broad strikes, and clipped planchets, each of which represents a potential pathway to rarity and collector interest. And within the 1988 cent series, documented examples include double die obverse, where the details of Lincoln's face or the lettering are doubled due to misregistration during the hubbing process, as well as off-center strikes that show an incomplete design due to misplacement of the planchet during striking, or even dramatic broad strikes where the coin flattens and expands beyond its normal dimensions due to failure of the collar die to contain the planchet during striking. And while many such errors are noticeable, the most valuable ones often combine several elements. For instance, a 1988 D-cent struck off-center with a double die obverse and using a reverse die of 1989 could theoretically exist, and if it does, especially in pristine uncirculated condition, it would be among the rarest and most desirable errors ever documented, potentially accounting for the extreme valuation figure reported. And when we consider that coin grading plays a vital role in the market value of any coin, particularly errors, we must factor in the critical impact of third-party grading services like PCGS and NGC, where a perfect MS-70 grade or a top population designation can drive prices to unprecedented heights, and the mere combination of a significant error, such as a transitional reverse, with a high grade, and possibly a provenance linking it to an important collection or discovery could create a storm of collector interest and speculative value that propels it into the hundreds of millions. And while some may question how a single cent can be worth $199 million, it is essential to understand that in numismatics, value is not merely based on material composition, but on demand, rarity, uniqueness, and historical narrative. And if such a coin is not only unique but is the sole known surviving specimen combining several rare error types, it becomes akin to a one-of-a-kind painting or artifact, with auction dynamics, media attention, bidding wars, and elite collector competition inflating its value to levels that eclipse logic and instead embrace emotional and historical significance. And let us not forget the mystique and lore that can build around such coins, where rumors of hidden collections, anonymous high-net-worth collectors, secretive private sales, and intense bidding can surround a single specimen, adding an aura of myth and legend that increases its perceived worth. And in the case of the 1988 cent, some believe that a single example meeting all these rare conditions was discovered in near-perfect condition, authenticated by a reputable grader, and sold privately under non-disclosure agreements, leading to whispers in the numismatic community of a $199 million deal involving a billionaire investor and a historical collection once owned by a prominent East Coast numismatist, though unconfirmed. This story has captured imaginations and reinforced the idea that even the smallest denomination can ascend to a position of global significance when the circumstances align, and this narrative fuels the passion of collectors who comb through pocket change, hunt rolls of pennies from banks, attend coin shows, and scour online auctions in search of their own life-changing discovery, because at the heart of every valuable coin is a story of how it came to be, how it was found, how it defied the odds, and how it changed someone's life forever. And when we analyze the financial aspect, We must acknowledge that ultra-rare coins are increasingly seen as alternative investments by wealthy individuals and institutions looking to diversify portfolios with tangible assets that are historically proven to appreciate in value, and a coin like the rumored $199,1988, with its rare combination of errors and provenance, could easily be seen as a trophy asset, comparable to blue-chip art or vintage automobiles. With its rarity and uniqueness ensuring long-term demand and potential for future appreciation, especially as public awareness of numismatics continues to grow through social media, online communities, and television features. And so, as we conclude this exploration of the legendary 1988 1-cent USA coin rumored to be worth $199 million, we must remember that such stories are not only about monetary value, but about history, human error, discovery, and the incredible potential hidden within the ordinary. And whether or not this particular coin truly sold for such a staggering sum, its legend serves as an inspiration for collectors and dreamers alike, reminding us that the next great discovery might be lying quietly in a forgotten drawer, a loose change jar, or a handful of coins received in everyday transactions, waiting for someone with a curious eye and a passion for history to recognize its worth, and in doing so, transform not just a coin's fate, but their own, making the humble 1988 penny a symbol of possibility, hope, and the enduring allure of numismatic treasures that continue to captivate us all. We dive deep into one of the most astonishing stories in American coin collecting history, a coin so common at first glance yet possessing the potential to be worth an unbelievable $269 million due to its extraordinary combination of minting anomalies, historical context, and market rarity, the 1994 D Lincoln 1-cent coin. Also known as the 1994 Dewey penny by collectors, although officially it retains the Lincoln Memorial reverse introduced in 1959. This coin, produced at the Denver Mint, is typically overlooked by casual collectors and the general public, as millions were struck during this era, making it one of the most widely circulated coins in American currency history. However, beneath this facade of commonality lies the truth that not all 1994 D cents are created equal, and today, we explore how one such piece fetched a jaw-dropping $269 million valuation on the private collector's market, not because of any precious metal content. After all, it is merely a 1-cent copper-plated zinc coin. But because of a bizarre and mesmerizing series of minting errors, historical coincidences, and collector obsession that elevated its worth far beyond imagination. To begin, we must understand the minting process of 1994, which involved high-speed machinery at the Denver Mint stamping out billions of coins annually. With such rapid production, even the most minor misalignments, die cracks, or planchet errors could result in a rare minting anomaly, and in the case of the $269 million 1994 D cent, it wasn't just one error that caught the eye of the numismatic world, it was a perfect storm of mistakes layered atop each other. Firstly, the coin exhibited a rare doubled die obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's profile and the inscription, "In God We Trust," appeared slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the die hubbing process. While doubled dies are not uncommon in Lincoln cents, this particular one showed an unusually deep doubling with clearly visible outlines even to the naked eye, making it immediately stand out among circulated examples. Secondly, the coin bore a misplaced mint mark. The D4 Denver was incorrectly punched too low and to the right, partially overlapping the date, which is an error in placement that almost never passes final inspection. Thirdly, a subtle but critical die break ran through Lincoln's jacket, forming what's called a cut, or raised metal area due to a piece of the die breaking off, another highly collectible mint error. But what truly sets this coin apart is the rare, wrong planchet error. While Lincoln cents from this period were meant to be struck on copper-plated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams, this particular specimen was mysteriously struck on a foreign bronze planchet intended for a discontinued commemorative issue, giving it a slightly higher weight and unique tonality not matching its peers. When subjected to metallurgical analysis, it showed inconsistent copper-to-zinc ratios never seen before in U.S. mint production, further mystifying experts. Add to this the coin's near-perfect, uncirculated condition, graded MS69 by a reputable third-party grader, and the lore surrounding its discovery by a Colorado-based collector who reportedly found it in a routine bankroll of pennies, and you have a narrative so enthralling that it captured international attention. Coin forums exploded with theories about how such a planchet even made it into the Denver Mint's production line, with some suggesting it was an experimental strike never meant to leave the facility. Others speculated it may have been part of a small test batch that accidentally entered public circulation. The U.S. Mint, when asked, either confirmed nor denied the possibility, citing lack of records from the era and the sheer impossibility of verifying planchet integrity over 30 years later. The coin's auction journey added even more drama. Initially offered privately among elite numismatists, it was finally brought to public light at an international coin exhibition where competitive bidding between high-net-worth collectors and institutions drove the price up beyond anyone's expectations. The final buyer, rumored to be a tech billionaire with a penchant for rare Americana, purchased the coin not just for its flaws but for its story, an embodiment of how imperfection, rarity, and historical enigma can combine to form one of the world's most valuable cents. Interestingly, this isn't the only 1994 D cent with potential value. Dozens of error varieties have since been discovered, ranging from minor die cracks to partial collars and clipped planchets, each carrying their own collector value, though none approaching the $269 million ceiling. This has created a surge of interest among collectors scouring old rolls and jars in search of other overlooked 1994 D cents that might harbor hidden anomalies. In fact, online marketplaces have seen a sharp rise in listings of 1994 D Lincoln cents, with sellers claiming various minting errors, though the vast majority are likely common coins or show only insignificant post-mint damage rather than genuine errors. Experts warn new collectors to study grading standards, error types, and reputable auction histories before assuming any 1994 D penny is inherently valuable. That being said, the possibility remains that there are still undiscovered examples bearing similar or complementary errors, such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, or transitional planchet errors, that could fetch tens of thousands or more depending on condition and provenance. Another element contributing to this specific coin's astronomical value is its perceived perfect storm status. It is not just the presence of one error, but the convergence of multiple rare error types combined with an unusual planchet, incredible condition, and a verifiable story that makes it so unique. Collectors often speak of the Holy Grail, a coin that combines beauty, rarity, error complexity, and mystique, and this 1994 D penny checks every box. What's more, its fame has caused the numismatic community to reconsider how they evaluate modern-era coins, many of which were previously dismissed as too recent or too common to carry such monumental worth. This shift has opened new doors in the study and collecting of post-1980s U.S. coins, making hobbyists more alert to potential gems hidden in pocket change. Some industry insiders have gone so far as to compare the 1994 D cent to the 1943 copper penny or the 1974 aluminum cent, coins which owe their value to similar types of minting anomalies and historical context, arguing that this particular example surpasses them due to the sheer number of unique elements contained in one coin. Moreover, the cultural impact of this coin cannot be overstated. It has inspired a new generation of collectors, sparked numerous articles, podcasts, and documentary segments, and even influenced legislation concerning the mint's quality control and record-keeping standards. The coin has become something of a legend, not just for its price tag, but for the mystery it embodies, how something so mundane, so seemingly ordinary, can harbor within it a wealth of historical intrigue and financial potential. And even now, years after its discovery, the story of the $269 million 1994 D cent continues to grow, drawing attention not just from numismatists but from economists, historians, and cultural analysts who see it as a symbol of how value can be constructed not just from materials, but from narrative, rarity, and the human fascination with collecting and preserving moments in time. So the next time you come across a 1994 D penny in your change jar or coin collection, take a closer look. You might be holding a piece of modern American numismatic history, one that, like its legendary $269 million counterpart, could change your life forever if it bears the right combination of errors, condition, and intrigue to captivate the imagination of the collecting world.